Lobster Mushroom Live, take 3. The first 2 lives, we're not even going to talk about why I'm having to start over for the 3rd time. But I never go live, so there are some rules I did not know I had to follow. But now that I know, I'm going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned earlier, today I'm experimenting with lobster mushrooms and banana blossoms. And my plan is to make a few different things with both. With the banana blossoms, which at this point I have opened all of them and I have them soaking in some sea salt water and different seasonings to kind of get them ready and kind of brine them to taste more like fish, because I do plan to air fry them. So those are there, but I left a few to unpeel to kind of show you guys how that works. For the lobster mushroom, I plan to make it several different ways. I have some spaghetti squash I'm actually going to turn into spaghetti, and I'm going to use some homemade roasted tomato sauce that I made the other day and kind of make like a lobster pasta with the lobster mushrooms and some king oyster mushrooms, which I plan to kind of make like scallops. I'm also going to make some lobster patties. I've shredded some down just to kind of see what they would look like beforehand, but I'm going to shred up a few more and make like lobster mushroom vegetable patties. I have some vegetables cut up already, so we can kind of get this process going because I'm already starting to get hungry. But I have bell peppers, white onions, red onions, jalapenos, shallots, zucchinis, as well as lemon that I plan on using both the fried fish as well as using some of the lemon zest in the air fry batter, because I also plan to air fry some of the mushrooms to kind of get like a fried lobster mushroom thing going. So air fried mushrooms, lobster patties, as well as sauteed mushrooms and scallops. I already have the squash cut in half and de-seeded, but just to let you guys know, I actually keep my squash seeds. I rinse them off, I toss them in a little olive oil or grapeseed oil and salt, and I actually roast them in the oven because they taste very much so like popcorn. And so that's pretty good. So I'm going to use those later on. And I've already prepped my air fry batter. I'll go ahead and show you guys what it is. It's basically just some seasonings mixed in with some chickpea flour, and just to kind of give you guys an idea of the types of seasoning I decided to use for today's experiment. I have kelp sea salt seasoning as well as Douce sea salt seasoning, which both taste very much so like, I really don't know how to explain it except saying it tastes like the ocean. I mean, it's kelp and Douce, so it's gonna give all of these seafood dishes definitely a more realistic taste, to make them very similar to what seafood would taste like. And basically I'm just gonna take these lobster mushrooms and I'm gonna dip them in some wet batter, which is basically chickpeas, spring water, and the seasonings that I mentioned beforehand. And the same thing, once they're dipped in there, I'm going to dip them in the dry batter, and then I'm going to put them in the air fryer. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's going to be kind of weird for me to just kind of talk into the screen where no one's talking back at me, but you know, it is what it is. We're going to make it work because I definitely have plans to try to teach you guys how to make some of the things, where my logo, make some of the things that I make here at your house. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this spaghetti squash in the oven because it's gonna take about 40 minutes at about 375, 400. So I'm basically just gonna take a teaspoon of olive oil as well as some salt and some pepper. I'm gonna put it on the side that's cut open, and then I'm gonna flip them over and put them in the oven. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. doing this, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my air fryer to preheat it. I'm gonna put it on 400 and have it preheating for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'll go ahead and put the lobster mushrooms in there that I'm going to air fry. So I have the spaghetti squash on parchment paper to make cleanup easier for my cookie sheets. Okay. So now that we have that going, I'm gonna go ahead and put some of my lemon zest in the dry batter and the wet batter, and then I'm going to squeeze probably just 1/2 lemon in the wet batter as well to kind of give it the lemony seafood taste. So the air fry batter is complete. I'm just gonna let the air fryer heat up for a few more minutes because I don't want to soak the lobster mushrooms in the wet batter, because apparently if you get the lobster mushrooms too wet, it'll start to lose kind of the red lobster-like color, so I don't want to do that. So while I'm giving the air fryer a few more minutes to heat up, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the little patties, the lobster patties that I want to make. So let me go ahead and finish shredding a few more pieces of the lobster mushroom. I'm going to use this side and just kind of take it, and it's kind of giving me strips, it's kind of giving me pieces. I'm going to try to get as much as I can so I can make as many patties as I can. And so I plan on making these similar to the chickpea fritters that I make. So I'm just gonna start off with like a cup of chickpea flour, put the vegetables in, give it a little seasoning, and just enough water to form patties with the chickpea flour. If you were watching my story earlier, I also mentioned that I do plan on I saved 4 of the biggest lobster mushroom pieces. I put them in the fridge for later on because I do plan on taking my cast iron skillet outside and putting the rest of them on the grill just to kind of see, you know, if I can kind of make like a grilled lobster with them as well. I'm sure it's been done, but I plan to brush a little homemade vegan butter, which is basically just coconut oil and grapeseed oil and salt, and just kind of brushing it on to the pieces before I put them on the grill. But barbecue used to be my favorite before I went vegan, so anything that I can put on the grill, I'm a happy person. This is about 3 pieces of lobster mushroom. I'm just gonna kind of show you guys what it looks like. It's a decent amount in there. So I think I'm gonna save these other big pieces for the sauteed one. I think right now this is enough for lobster patties. So now that I have that shredded, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in some bell pepper, some white onion, some red onion, some jalapenos because I like it hot. I use shallots as a garlic replacement. A shallot is kind of like a mix in between onions and garlic, but it's alkaline friendly. Garlic isn't, so I threw some of that in there, and a little zucchini. I'm going to move this out of the way because I may use this a little bit later, because I do have a little kale that I'm going to cook to kind of go on the side with all these veggies. So now that my air fryer has been going for a minute, I'm going to spray the bottom of the air fryer with some grapeseed oil. I may be able to take this over here so you guys can kind of see the process. So I'm going to use the process similar to what I use when I make my line wings, just with different seasonings. But basically, I kept all of like the really like small kind of circular pieces of the lobster mushroom, and I'm just going to quickly put them in my wet batter and then toss them into the air fryer. And I'll cut this one in half because it's pretty big. Yeah, I may cut these in half too. So I'm gonna go ahead and twirl it around, let it get wet. And then put it in here. So I'm hoping for a lemony, seafoodish, kelpy type taste when this is all said and done. If I had been thinking, I would have picked up some vegan mayonnaise at the store so I could make vegan tartar sauce. But I did not. So instead, with the fried mushrooms, I'm going to use some of my homemade vegan remoulade sauce, which is what I use for the po' boys, the po' boy tacos that I make. So it's basically just going to be, instead of tartar sauce, just kind of a spicy remoulade sauce that's going to go with these fried mushrooms. And I'm not going to lie, y'all, I'm cooking a lot of different things since I'm experimenting. This is definitely, all these different ways I'm making it, you can, you know, separate them and make them into different meals. If these taste how I'm hoping they're gonna taste, these fried lobster mushrooms would definitely pair well with like sauteed veggies or even air fried veggies as well. It may be like zucchini or squash fries. The vegan fish, same thing, or maybe like, vegan coleslaw would go good with the vegan fish. But I just kind of got excited. So I kind of just want to try everything all in one night. Okay, let me see. So far I've got 6 pieces in there. Let's see if I can fit all of them in there. This is kind of interesting. I was really hoping I could play some jams while cooking, but Instagram was like, nah. It stopped my live, deleted it, and was like, we think you're playing music that don't belong to you. So I guess in order to have music playing while I'm cooking, I might have to become like a vegan rapper or something. I don't know. I might have to start cooking and come with a few bars too. Okay, just a few more pieces that I'm going to try to fit in here. And after these are done, I'm going to air fry. I'm not going to air fry all of these banana blossoms. No telling how long that would take. I'll have to air fry the rest later, not on live, but I am going to air fry a few just so we can kind of see what the end result is going to be as far as taste. A lot of other vegan chefs use banana blossom as a fish alternative, and it appears to be not easy to find. It took a while for me to find this banana blossom. A lot of vegan chefs get the canned banana blossom because that's accessible at like stores, but I tend to stray away from canned foods. It's definitely better to only eat fresh fruits and vegetables, even if you can't get them organic, as well as when you're picking like fruits and things like that, making sure that they are seeded. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some more batter for the fish fillets. I thought this was gonna last, but for now, this is the last piece of the lobster mushroom that I'm gonna air fry. 2 pounds of lobster mushroom is making a lot of food, for sure. All of this could definitely last for about 3 or 4 days. So I'm gonna let those cook for 10 minutes, and then I am going to spray them with a little grapeseed oil, and then I will cook them again for about another maybe 5 to 7 minutes, just depending on how crispy they are, because I have no idea how crispy they're gonna be. So like I said, I've never cooked for them before, but 10 minutes on one side will definitely ensure that the batter sticks to the mushrooms. So while that is happening, I'm going to finish working on these patties so we can go ahead and get them formed up and grill it. Let's see. Bring out the big cast on. big jug of chickpea flour. Okay, so I think it'd be safe to start off with a cup of, this is just a half a cup, but with a cup of, or at least almost a cup. No, I'll do a cup. There's a lot in there. A cup of chickpea flour, and then I'm gonna season it. So I'm gonna use some of the Douce. So y'all can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna use some of the kelp seasoning. We're going to use some sea salt. With a teaspoon, this is a half a teaspoon, but a teaspoon and a little change of salt. Gonna use some organic Cajun seasoning. Don't want to use anything else. Got plenty of vegetables in there. Oh, pepper would probably pair well with this. So I like to mix white and black pepper. I don't know why, but white pepper seems to be in a lot of Cajun recipes. So I've been using it more. Organic white pepper, of course. So I'm gonna use a little bit of both. Alright. Now, I'm gonna set this up here because we're probably gonna need to use it again. For just a second, I'll set it up there. I need spin. Alrighty. I gotta have a better spoon today. Yeah, big spoon and water. So we're gonna basically wanna put just enough water to mix the flour with the vegetables, but we don't want it to make it too wet because then it won't form into patties. So I'm gonna first stir this together, and then I poured 3/4 cups of water. But I'm just gonna pour it in little by little. Oh, it's interesting looking. I'm trying not to spill it on the side. Well, it looks like 3/4 cups of water seem to do the trick as far as making a pretty decent patty. It's not too wet, not too dry, not too much on my hand. So that was a cup of chickpea flour and 3/4 cups of water did the trick. So now that it's ready, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my oil on the stove between medium and medium high. And I guess I could pat out the patties to kind of have them already ready. So I multitask, because I'm making a lot of different things. So I'm going to make mine small. But I guess you could make them any size if you wanted to. Let me scoot over so you guys can see me. So let me think of something else we can talk about, because again, this is kind of weird. Just talking to the screen. So vegan alkaline tips as far as making huge lifestyle changes, but are still pretty simple. One thing that I have learned to do is make my own milk. Tomorrow I have these like pancake shapers coming, because I'm thinking about just making different types of pancakes. I have pancake bites on my menu right now, but just different shaped pancakes. Just want to see what that will look like or whatever, themed pancakes. And when I make my pancakes, of course I don't use milk. I use hemp milk, which I make myself from hemp seeds. I use 2 tablespoons of hemp seed, 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and 2 cups of spring water, and I blend that up. I may add a tablespoon of agave if I'm doing like a, baking, like a dessert recipe. But if I'm using milk for like my vegan mac and cheese, then I don't use agave, because I don't want the mac and cheese to be sweet. Okay, I can hear my oil is ready over there. It looks like this is gonna make about 9 patties at the size I've been making them at, which is pretty cool. Hopefully all of them will fit in this first round, since I pulled out the biggest cast iron skillet that I have. And once I get things cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and tend to the air fried not oyster mushrooms is what I usually use, but the air fried lobster mushrooms. I'm going to spray those with a little grapeseed oil, and then put them back in the air fryer for however long looks like they're gonna need to make sure it's crispy on the outside. Okay, so this was my last patty to form. I'm gonna go ahead and turn down the oil just in case it decides to pop me. If it does, don't laugh at me. Sometimes injuries can happen in the kitchen, so let's see. Good. I'm lucky. It's not popping right now. Let me go ahead and get these in there. Turn back up to that medium hot. These look really good, by the way. Just so you guys know. I'm actually really excited to see what they taste like. These are probably not gonna take long to cook. Right now the oil is hot, but it's not boiling hot, which may be a good thing in the sense it's not, you know, popping out at me or overcooking them too fast. Give me a chance to kind of place them in the pan the way that I like. And it's also going to give me a chance to rinse my hands and kind of move the oil around in the pan. So while those are getting a good start at cooking, I'm probably going to cook them for about 5 to 6 minutes on each side. So that gives me enough time to check on these. So I have this thing that I bought. I think I bought this at Bed Bath & Beyond, but you can put any oil that you want in it and just kind of keep refilling it instead of buying the aerosol cans. But you have to pump it. You gotta be strong to pump it. All turned over. So after cooking them for 10 minutes the first round, the lobster mushrooms are actually really crispy. So I'm only going to cook them for 5 minutes for this round, and probably next time I may cook it about 8 minutes. So I'm just going to flip over my lobster patties. It feels like it's been about 5 minutes. Yeah, they look really good. I'm glad I didn't add any extra water to them. Yeah. Right now they're so pretty. Ooh, I can't wait to show y'all these. These are actually really nice looking. Alrighty, so those are done. I am actually gonna go ahead and heat up my, well, they're almost done. They need to cook for 5 more minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start reheating my roasted tomato sauce to get them to start getting it ready for when the spaghetti squash is finished. So a few extra minutes while I am waiting on those to finish. I'm gonna go ahead, put this over here, and add a little extra chickpea flour to my dry batter to air fry some of the banana blossom fish once those lobster mushrooms that are currently in the air fryer are done. I'm definitely gonna do a full batch on the live before I end the live, because there's not much left to do. Alright, so since I already have some seasoning there, I'm just gonna throw in a little extra Cajun seasoning. A little extra Douce, kelp, sea salt, a little pepper, check on my patties. I don't want them to get too dark on one side. Get that on the plate for them. Oh yeah. Go ahead and turn this off. I'm gonna pull them out in just a second. Some are cooked more than others, but for the most part, they all look very, very gorgeous. While that is finished, we'll go ahead and pull out the air fried lobster mushroom. let me bring over the finished products for our first few items. So this is the air fried lobster mushroom. It kind of looks like my lion wings, but we're gonna let these cool off before we try them. And this is how the lobster patties turned out. They both smell delicious. I'm gonna give them a few seconds to cool off, and I'm also going to wipe out my air fryer. Usually when you air fry something that's breaded, no matter what flour it is, it's probably gonna have some residue left over at the bottom of the air fryer. So I am just going to wipe it out and then respray it with the grapeseed oil to get it ready for the banana blossom. It doesn't have to be perfectly cleaned out, but you just don't want too much batter because that continues to cook the longer you use the air fryer for your second and third batches, and then you don't want it to burn the food that's currently cooking. Okay. So I already added a little extra seasoning to the batter I already had. You know what? I don't think I added enough. I'm gonna just add a little more Cajun seasoning. I think I also want to add a little chili powder. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add a little chili powder just to see where that goes. And just a few more dashes of salt. I low-key can't remember if I added salt before I went over and got all that food out. But honestly, it'll be fine even if I already did. I just added a little more. Okay. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze the rest of this lemon in the wet batter. Because the wet batter, especially when you're using thick alkaline flours like chickpea flour, after it's been sitting, when it gets combined with the water, it gets really thick. And so you kind of have to add water, or in this case I added lemon juice. I probably am going to still add a little water because it's still pretty thick. But if it's been sitting for like 10-15 minutes, it'll just be kind of thick, like pancake batter. You actually want to thin it out just a little bit thinner than that. You don't want it to be too thick, but then again, you could have it thick. I mean, it would kind of resemble something like, I guess you could say like fried fish, or not fried fish, because I don't think I've ever met anyone that uses a wet batter for fish. But for like chicken, you know, people will make like a flour egg wet mix to kind of have the inside kind of fluffy and thick as well as the outside. Yeah, I think I am going to add a little water to that. But if you make it too thin, like if you add too much water, you can just easily dump a little bit of your dry batter in your wet batter to thicken it back up if you need to. Alrighty. So I have my batters ready for the banana blossom fried fish. I'm actually gonna pull out the spaghetti squash because it definitely feels like it's been at least 30 minutes, if not 40. But I may or may not have set a timer on my phone when I started it, because I low-key don't know how. I wasn't sure if I went into my phone if it would cut the live on. also gonna stir my tomato sauce, make sure it's not sticking to my pan, but it's on low, so it shouldn't be. Cool over there. Alrighty. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put these banana blossoms in here, and then actually, you know what? I'm actually gonna try a piece of the air fried lobster mushrooms. Air frying any mushroom is delicious, but I can definitely taste the difference that the kelp and the douce made as far as adding like a seafoodish taste to it, or I'm not sure if it really is just how it tastes anyway, but this tastes like a piece of seafood. Now, I could have air fried it for maybe a minute more, minute or two more, to make it just a tad bit crispier. But since I'm not gonna eat this all now, I'm not gonna lie, it's really good. I'm gonna have one more piece, but I'm gonna put these in the oven since it's still on, just to kind of let it cook and get a little bit crispier. That's crazy. I wish you guys could see. I don't think you guys can see that it still looks very red, and very much so like lobster on the inside. That's really good. I'm gonna dump the rest of these on here and put them in the oven for a few minutes. And now I'm gonna try the lobster patties. Okay. Alrighty, here is one of the lobster patties. I'm gonna cut it open and taste it. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's gonna kind of have that same taste that those air fried lobster mushrooms did. But again, I put bell peppers, red onions, white onions, shallots, jalapenos, and zucchini. I mixed it with the chickpea flour and added water and cooked them in grapeseed oil. Now that's really good. I'm checking the spaghetti squash to make sure it's done, as well as eating the rest of this lobster patty. I'm really glad I decided to try this mushroom in more than one way. So far, the two that are done, oh my god, so good. Between the patties and the air fried mushrooms, so far I like the air fried mushrooms more, but I still have to make the sauteed lobster mushrooms with the king oyster scallops and see how it tastes with the spaghetti squash. Well, let me see if it's ready. So this pan is hot, but I'm pretty sure this spaghetti squash is ready. Woo. I'm gonna show you guys the finished product. So basically, if you know anything about spaghetti squash, you chop off the ends, chop it down the middle lengthwise. It's not an easy feat. Squash is really hard to cut. You have to be strong. But basically, you can just take a fork and kind of drag it into the squash, and it'll just make like strings of the squash that resembles spaghetti. And so my plan, oh, it looks good. I'm gonna go hurry up and cut up the rest of these lobster mushrooms and these scallops, because the plan is to just basically put that roasted tomato sauce right on top, and then put the scallops and the sauteed lobster mushrooms on top, and kind of make like a lobster spaghetti. So I am going to do that. I'm gonna cut these up really quick because I'm getting hungry. I'm not sure how much longer I'm gonna be able to do this for y'all before I take a break. Well, I'm not gonna use these because I definitely just dropped these on the floor. But luckily I have a second pack. I'll be more careful with these. That's hilarious. I just dropped that whole pack on the ground, but this one actually has more mushrooms in them. So maybe that was, fate or something. At least that's what I'll tell myself. So basically, I'm going to make these into scallops. And honestly, I might just use the same pan I was using so I can get that seasoning from these delicious lobster patties that I made. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the oven with the air fried mushrooms. To keep them warm for my snack later. I hope they all fit on here. This tray's kind of little. Make it work. Oh yes. Dang, I just forgot, y'all. I didn't even use the remoulade sauce yet. I'm just gonna make the scallops in a circular form, like in circles. So I'm gonna cut them down the middle, and then I'm gonna cut them this way. But before I get started on that, let's see, the air fryer. Now the air fryer could reheat up a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these down the middle. And I'm gonna to take the fork and kind of graze the outsides of them. And the reason why I'm grating it with the fork is because it's going to get the seasonings deeper into the mushroom. So once I cut these up, I'm probably just going to put them in the bowl with the cut up lobster mushrooms. The rest of them that I have. Yep, see, I made like little groves in there to get the mushroom in there better. Alright, let me get a bowl real quick. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting these up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the banana blossom in the air fryer. It's like little chunks like this. And again, I used king oyster mushrooms for the scallops. To me, king oyster mushroom works better when you're trying to make vegan seafood dishes, but hen of the woods and oyster mushrooms to me taste more like chicken when you're trying to make like chicken vegan recipes. But these mushrooms make really good salads, and some of them are going to be different sizes. Some of them I have them really small, some of them I have them really big. But like I said, my plan is to put these on top of the spaghetti squash, which will have the roasted tomato sauce I made the other night in there. So it'll be more like a grilled seafood spaghetti. Alright, I've got the king oyster mushrooms all cut up. I'm going to put these to the side for a second so I can go ahead and work with the banana blossom to do